what the journey will be is the mixing of that as they attend class together. These different groups in the classroom is where it comes together, or at clubs, or um, after school activities or outings, is where another type of learning takes place. So their journey will be fruitful. It will be rich. It will be intense at times. Well, I guess the my answer to that question would be diversity. I'll just explain maybe three elements of diversity that I like about the work. One is the student body. Um, I have a passion for education and working with students both in the academic and in their personal development. What makes our school a little unique is, and the job a lot more interesting, is the diversity of the student body. That we have a wide range of students. We have international, we have domestic students, we have students who are elite athletes, students who are, strong academics, uh, and it's really a cultural mix, socioeconomic mix, one that I've not seen in a private or in an independent school. So that makes it very interesting. As a result of that, our days are unique because my day might be, attending classroom during the day, attending basketball practice after school, um, visiting with the students, at lunchtime. So it's really, a very diverse day. And as a result of that, the staff is very diverse because we have a large international contingent of students. We have a large international contingent of staff members as well, and who speak other languages, who come from other cultures, and together we're better and stronger for the experience of mixing. And I find that's the three elements that are most interesting at Royal Crown Academic School. The most exciting was the desire to bring about um, uh, this diverse mix in a very intentional way. My mandate is our history of the school, for example, is international students. And so, at one time, 100% of the students at Royal Crown, you know, were international students. Uh, my mandate and the exciting part, it was to diversify that. And what I found through an existing, elite basketball program, um, where mainly Canadians were members of that part of the school contingent, was this exciting opportunity to have um, two groups that started in different places. Canadians with our own experience here in Canada, and students from all around the world, large contingent from China, Korea, Turkey, different parts of the world, and then bringing them together and creating an environment where they can learn from one another so that the opportunity is not lost. It can be, and it's easier to, stick with the group of students you know best. And often those are the students that emanate from your own background or your own experience. Uh, so my challenge, and one that I accept, that was given to me, is to create possibilities, avenues where that mixing, that blending, and that learning could take place from one another. And so that's a very exciting piece to the work that I do. So I'm one of the first people to arrive at the school. I usually arrive before 7 o'clock. That quiet time allows me to just to open the day, have a little bit of reflection, greet the staff as they enter the building, followed by the students. And so that would be, kind of my morning. Then I like to go into the classrooms, just to say hello to the teachers, to listen in on some of the lessons in the morning, yeah, get to check in on the school day from the classroom perspective. And because we're not, a terribly large school, it's easy enough for me to do. I can do that within an hour, having sat in, visited, chatted with teachers and students during that time. And then, a lot of the rest of the day is, various gatherings, follow-ups. I might chat with families, depending on the time frame, because we have families that are overseas. So I, have to be aware of that. And so that happens, very early in the morning if I'm dealing with Asia. If I'm dealing with Europe, I could do that, kind of in the morning hours, and then, before it becomes evening there. So I try to do that in the morning. And in the afternoon, again, I'll try to have lunch, and visit with the students or teachers during that time. And in between the breaks of classes, I try to be present and out in the corridors so that people have an opportunity to ask me something. And then, of course, there's the regular operation of the school. There is the nuts and bolts that need to be taken care of, whether it's the meetings about the facility or accounting, things that need to be attended to. Those are other parts. And then after school, I try to be a part of whatever the after school activities might be taking place. Yeah. So that would be kind of more or less a typical day. And then in some evenings, obviously, we have events or happenings that I need to be in attendance for. But those will be usually periodic in nature. But I always like to have a presence there as well. It will depend on the student. It's very different for each group. For the international contingent, some may arrive as early as grade 9, which is the high school period here in Ontario. Others will arrive for grade 11 and 12. And so, it depends. So when we speak of a journey of a student, it will depend on the length. So those that are coming from overseas, the journey begins with, in their first summer arrival. We have a 4-semester system, and our first semester begins in early August. And for those students coming from overseas, it's a period of transition. It's brushing up on their English, adapting to a new country, perhaps if it's their first time in Canada, getting settled in at our residence. That would be the start for them. And their journey would be one of, obviously, they're here for the academic experience. And so first and foremost, academics is the cornerstone of what we do. And the opportunities we provide for our students in their learning and acquisition. Beyond that, a student's journey will adjust in that, and then there'll be a mingling, as I described it, for Canadian students who arrive. Obviously, the transition is much easier. A lot of the Canadian students are associated with the basketball program that we have, which is an elite program. So a lot of that would be developing their skill sets, developing their fortitude around adversity and challenge as part of any sport at an elite level. And what the journey will be is the mixing of that as they attend class together. These different groups in the classroom is where it comes together, or at clubs, or after school activities or outings is where another type of learning takes place. So their journey will be fruitful. It will be rich. It will be intense at times, because each person comes from a very, very different experience, and then they're sharing that experience, testing that experience in this environment, this platform that we call Royal Crown, where they have an opportunity to grow both in themselves and help others to grow in their learning. Staff turnover, we're fortunate that most of the staff that we have at Royal Crown, since I've been here, it's been a short period of time, have been here for a few years, and that's been good. One of the challenges on the international school side, and the tradition in the past, the turnover rate was much higher. And so as we diversify both our student body, we've diversified a little bit of our staff body, in the sense that we require obviously staff to be here for a long period of time. So most of the staff that have renewed again have been here for a few years, and that's been an important feature, at least an important priority for me, because one of the things that particularly a Canadian audience appreciates is the continuity of experience and learning. Even if the teacher may not teach that particular grade level, having them in the institution is very important. And I see it as, students go by, and teacher that they had, the year prior or from a couple of years ago, they warmly greet that teacher, because that teacher is part of the community. And that's an important feature that we will put a great emphasis on ensuring that we continue having that continuity in place. At the same time, I think it's always good to have a diversity of thought among the faculty. And so having new ideas, new perspectives brought in from time to time is a good thing. So having the balance of those two things, I think, is the best of both worlds. We had recently one of our valedictorians this past May. Our graduation ceremony is the last Friday in May. And I listened as he delivered his experience at Royal Crown. Here was an individual who was an elite athlete, one that I'm sure will have opportunities to study in the United States at a Division I school. But beyond that, deep and a deep value system, a deep integrity in this individual. And because we're an academic school and our roots are Chinese international school in origin 20 years ago, and we've always had a tradition around the math and the sciences of high quality and high achievement in both the teaching and the learning and the outcomes. This valedictorian also was, a top-notch student with just exemplary grades and achievement. So it was kind of wrapped the whole package in one. Now that you know, I won't deny, is exceptional. It's not always, you won't get it in that abundance in all three of these areas. But that's what we seek in our students is that type of model where strong academics, because we're a school first and foremost, and that there can be no shying away from that aspect. We have elite athletics on our site, so that has a particular demand. And then, like all things, we want our students to be good citizens, good people, people who will contribute to the betterment, of our society, wherever they may go. And so, when you can get all three at a high level, in a person, that's great. Obviously, along the way, someone might have challenges in one of those three areas, and that's where we as supporters of that person's journey have to be there to help them improve in and succeed in whatever areas they need that assistance. We don't have, we're still a young school, so the alumni is still very young, compared to, I've been at schools where the alumni, is, multi-generational, and, you see the different iterations of the history of the school in the alumni. We're still very young. We have some storied alumni who play in the NBA, and that's there. But for the most part, it's an area that's we're developing as we get older. It's a piece, and also having an international history in origin, where that tradition is not quite as strong abroad in many places. That the importance of that, in the early days of the school, may not have been emphasized in the same way as it has been, these past, 5 to 7 years. So it's a developing and burgeoning, but very important aspect that we are currently spending some time focusing on. Because of the nature of our school, with this kind of blend of Canadian and international students, with a mix of people learning a second language, studying in a second language, it's not English, may not be their language, they're not native speakers, and so we devised a curriculum that appeals to international students, obviously, because that's our origins. And so we have 4 semesters, 4 regular semesters, and there's some summer semesters, but the 4 regular semesters where the students take 2 courses each, so that it's divided, instead of the 4-course semester in Ontario system, say, for example, one, in the fall, and then January switches to the second semester, and they have 4 more courses. Our students are constantly taking 2 courses every 2 months. And so what that allows is advantages a particular type of student. So one, international students who could therefore concentrate on the 2 courses rather than 4 courses at a time, as they improve their language skills and understanding. So that helps them. It also helps elite athletes who have a tremendous commitment to many hours of practice and games and commitments as a result of being elite athletes. It also appeals to them. There's another group that it's very helpful for, is a particular type of learner, one that would rather concentrate on, their learning on two courses at a time because of the way that they learn, rather than being somewhat distracted or having challenges around organization when trying to manage, a larger load over a short period of time. And so it definitely appeals for any of those types of students. Fortuitously for us, and we created the system in origin based on the international side. It works extremely well for elite athletes, given the nature of our school day. But it also appeals to that type of learner. And I guess the other place it would appeal to is if you wanted to be a student that requires a certain amount of individual attention, because our classes are very small. Our class size this past year was around 10 students per class. It can fit in between 10 and 15, on average. But what that allows is a lot of individual attention. I guess it wouldn't appeal to, and I tease students at orientation when I say to them, depending on where they come from, if they're coming from the public system where, there could be as many as 30, 35 kids in a class, but even an independent or a private school with, 20, 24 students, per class, that this is a place where you shall not be able to hide. You're a person and you'll be noted because there's not that many kids in the class. And so the teacher has ample time, to provide support to you, but call upon you. And so that, you have to be prepared for that. And so when you come to class, there's no kind of hiding in a corner of a class of 30 and not being, and remaining anonymous. You will not be anonymous here. And it doesn't matter whether you're with us for your, first semester from abroad, or you've been with us for years and, you're a lead athlete. It doesn't matter. We know who you are. You know your teachers well, and they know you. We have a low ratio of guidance, about 1 to 50 students. So one guidance counselor for every 50 students. So there's lots of adults. We have a very large coaching staff, for our athletic program. Again, lots of people who will know you, and therefore will encourage you along the road, but also hold a certain accountability. And so for a student who doesn't mind, the individual attention, and the commitments that come from that, this is the school for them. So I mentioned the culture is very important to the school. So we have this. The mix is one of the most important features that I mentioned about the learning that one gets from students who come from abroad, from different traditions, different languages, different perspectives, and we mix that together, with the Canadian experience. And I think that one informs our culture because it equips us to be more open-minded, open to new possibilities, learning, how gestures or how symbolism works very differently. Even sentence structures work differently from one culture to another, and so that learning will help everybody build a very special community. The other part is because we have students, I call them pioneers. They're almost adventurers, explorers, because whether they come from, imagine leaving their countries at a high school age, to come and study here. teenagers, leaving their families, leaving their communities, leaving their support systems, leaving their friends, and going on this adventure. And so you could imagine what it takes for that type of student. Similarly, many of our Canadian students who form the bulk, who form our elite athletes, they are also on a tremendous adventure. Not knowing where the outcome will go, but how demanding and the pathway is for them, and they commit to that fully. So what you have in our culture is a certain grit, a certain perseverance that exists in the community, because they're all on this incredible journey, very brave souls. And you add the mix of the last few years of the COVID environment that we've been living in, which for all our groups complicates life immeasurably. And yet, as I spoke at graduation, I could only admire these pioneers who I quoted Frost in The Road Less Traveled, that they took the pathway that was very different, the one that was less traveled, and that's made all the difference for our culture. And that's what forms a unique feature to the school. So we have the academics, we have the strong support systems and the small classrooms, but the unique feature that adds to the culture is the student body and the diversity within it. And one of the elements of that diversity is this pioneer spirit, the willing to take a risk. We create parameters for a safe environment for them to take that risk, but it's still quite an adventure, and that forms a big part of the culture. And so you have these high achievers, whether they're elite athletes or they want to get into top-notch universities, with high grades. So they plow through the material with passion, but at the core of their being is doing things differently, and that's the common element of the school, even though their pathway, how they got here, was not the common piece. But it's the spirit of adventure and the risk taking that bond us together, and from there we do the learning and deepen that experience. So we have staff who speak other languages. The school of origin, for example, at one time 20 years ago, we were almost entirely Chinese. International student body was in origin. So we have a lot of supports, communication mechanisms that have developed over the years. We have obviously staff who can communicate in Chinese, and so we have apparatus to maintain high levels of contact. For our other international students, most of the parent body we keep in contact with. I was speaking yesterday with a family from Turkey. A few weeks ago, I was speaking with a family from the Caribbean. So we keep in touch via Zoom, via various communiques, Snapchat, various method. Not one method does not suit all families. The other part is that they have access to systems where they can track closely the progress of their children. So we allow them access, and they can see in real time, how their son or daughter is doing at school. So that's a big plus. We have a low ratio of teacher to student, so we're able to obviously maintain contact, with the parent body via that mechanism. And then we have a high ratio of guidance counselors to students, and so the guidance counselors maintain regular contact with the parent body as well. So we have that, and then there's the senior team, the head of academics, myself, others who also have contacts with parents. So our current student population of a couple hundred students allows us to have a certain intimate contact with our parent body. Probably that you might not find, in a school where you might have 1,000. It's a little harder or more challenging to do. So we're able to maintain. It's not always easy because you're working in, other languages and other cultures, particularly on the international side. And then on the Canadian side, of course, they come to the school more often. They have, they walk through the doors. They have direct access, and so that's a little easier. But it's not without, like any other school. We want to be there for our parents, and we want. They can never quite get enough information, given that their children are teenagers and are not always divulging all the information in a timely way. I'll put it that way. And so we as a school have to make up for that. Yeah, we've been very fortunate in that I don't know if it's the small size classroom or the respect, because people come from different cultures, and so people are generally respectful. Canadians have been, raised with an admiration and respect, and a politeness around other cultures, and how to approach that, and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate things to ask and inquire about. And so that's helpful. So kudos to our Canadian side on that side. And then on the international side, there's a certain politeness, a certain, depending on the culture, a certain deference to the teachers, to what they view as leaders. There's a kind of respect to adults that's given, and so we really haven't had conflicts amongst the student body of any significance. I mean, there's always elements where students will push the boundaries in kind of, I would say, softer ways around submitting assignments on time, or uniform infractions and those kinds of things. But for the most part, they are a very polite and committed, because I think if you commit either into the school as it exists around this blending of international and local environment, with the structures that I described earlier, small classroom sizes, emphasis on academics, and so and a certain discipline, because you have to be, it has to be fairly regimented in order to meet the needs of international students or elite athletes. So they bring a certain discipline to it, and I think part of that allows a focus and a tolerance that helps avoid, I suppose, too much kind of time on one's hands and getting into personal conflicts with one another, because the day is fairly concentrated. They get out of their 2 courses for the day, and they go on and do some co-curricular activities, or their sports commitments, and then there's homework. So I think the day is well structured, and because we have a low ratio of staff to students, I think we would be able to intervene quite quickly, if there was any kind of unease or conflict that was brewing somewhere. But we would know about it fairly quickly, and our guidance counselors do a tremendous job if a student has, any kind of personal issues that, may emerge. Again, we have such a great ratio of guidance counselors to students that, we generally know about things and before they happen, and therefore you avoid the actual, incident or event that might require, greater action. Yeah, I definitely would assign it, you know, uh, an adventurer, that an explorer, both an explorer in the sense of one wanting to acquire knowledge to help their own future and the future of whatever society that they'll be returning to. So I think that's very important. So you want to explore the rich human history of knowledge that exists, and so they're explorers in that sense. They're explorers in a sense of um, uh, you know not afraid to go out of their comfort zones uh, in order to achieve something uh, that's greater than their own local experience or their own confined experience, and so they're willing to step out uh, and be counted as one of the people who uh, you know takes the path that's a little different than maybe their peers, and then they meet other people who do that. So you think of the people who've explored innovation or who've explored um, music, who've explored new frontiers. Uh, these are the people, these are the exemplars that I would use to describe, what our student would look like. So that would be the analogy I would use. So we're located in a school building that was built to be a school. So it's a school in that sense. It was built, with classrooms. It's a large building, and so we have a lot of space. Our classrooms are quite large. The building was built at an earlier time of large classroom spaces, so you definitely have a sense of that. And then you have small ratio of student to teachers as we do. At times it seems very large. And so our kind of if you walk into a building, our second and third floors are essentially classrooms around this kind of, I'll call it more or less a squared shaped building. The main floor as you walk into our building has a lot more diversity in the sense that we have a first class bar none gymnasium, where professional teams come to practice. So it's quite an incredible sight to behold. Also on our main floor, we have a swimming pool. We have a dining area. We have laboratories. We have a university lecture room, which we affectionately call the auditorium. So we have, those would kind of form on the main floor, and then at the lower level, we have a first class fitness center that would rival any top gymnasium in Toronto. We have trainers that are there that help the students achieve their best physical shape, and we devise programs there. So it's a full complement in the years to come, in the very near future. In the back of our building, we have a parking lot, and in our future plans there is to build a residence. We've been zoned, cleared all the permitting challenges that are part of the process, and so we hope to build our residence on site with our school in the next, hopefully next year if all goes well. So it's a I would say a very interesting school. It has everything that one needs to have a successful school experience, and so people who come and visit are always impressed by the site. You're looking at the plethora of schools, and there are all kinds. And so I think one of the important things for a parent to decide early on is, what are the priorities for my children? Because every school will have different elements. And so I encourage every parent to do their research. The elements for our school that would appeal to parents whose students would benefit from our environment would be, if they want to put their children into an environment that is very diverse, so there's a certain kind of blending of international, Canadian, different cultures, different experiences, and if that's important, for sure. Obviously, academics, we don't give any, ground on that. That's, very important. And the nature of a lot of our international students, that is the primary reason, often why they come is to seek the best from what North America has to offer in high school education. And we offer that. If you're interested in sports, particularly basketball, obviously, that's a big draw. Lots of our students who come are passionate about the sport, and that, they often self-select, based on that. But because our environment's set around, those parameters, we have a small classroom. We do the 2 courses per semester over 4 semesters. That appeals to a different kind of learner. And so I would encourage parents who feel that their students would benefit from that structured environment where they're working on 2 courses at a time in very small classes. Our classes would be amongst the smallest in private schools, with a lot of individual attention. If they would benefit from that, because every learner is different. And there are learners that can get distracted by and overwhelmed by a different kind of environment where you have 4 or 5, 6 courses that you're trying to track, and they're not succeeding as a result of that. And so those would be the elements that I would say that a parent consider the kind of learner their child does best in, because what you essentially want is their potential to be realized. We believe, and it's part of our kind of belief system, our motto, every young person has powerful potential, right? And it's only in the right environment that they will flourish. So if you take that, and that's our precept, this has to be the right environment for them. And I am convinced, because I know I see it with the students that we have, that it works extremely well. So if your child would benefit from the individual attention and the structured semestered system with 2 courses at a time, with a lot of follow-up, and then having, this interesting and rich cultural and diverse environment around them, then, this would be an excellent option for them. And so I would just encourage everyone to do their homework, if you will, and do what's best for your family.
For more information about this school, you can visit their profile at ourkids.net.